Hey guys, today I'm going to teach you guys how to color grade your Valorant edits, and we are going to be using magic below looks for this tutorial. And you will learn how to take your edit from looking like this to this using these two effects. So I'm going to turn them off for now and add looks. Okay, so I'm going to press edit, and this is where we are going to be spending most of our time. So I'm going to quickly show you guys how this works. So magic bullet is going to look at your effects from left to right, just like how After Effects goes from top to bottom, right? So if you press T, it's going to bring up all your tools, and there's different sections of these effects, and they all have different purposes, right? And if you press S, that's going to bring up your scopes, and we're not going to be really using scopes for this tutorial because Valorant is usually already like color corrected, so you don't want to like color correct it again. So there's that. If you press L, that's going to bring up all your presets you could use, but we're not going to be using them today. So I'm just going to press T to bring up all the tools, and let's get started, okay? The first effect that we're going to add is the two-step process, which can be found in the camera section. And what this effect does is that it divides all of the colors into two sections. So all of the colors are either this neon green color or this red pink color, okay? And then we're gonna add HSL color to adjust the saturation of all the individual colors. And since we already separated all the colors in two parts, so now all we have to do is desaturate the red color, and that's only gonna leave us with one color, that is blue, right? And if we didn't do that, we would be left with this. And if you turn this off, you would have to basically desaturate every single one except these two and do it like this, right? And that's quite a lot of work. So all we really had to do was use the two-strip process to strip all the colors in two categories, red and blue, and get this, okay? So now what you can do is add hue and saturation after the HSL colors. And then you can adjust the hue of this color because everything else is desaturated. It's not going to affect anything else. It's only going to affect the saturated colors, right? So you can set it to red if you want. You can set it to like this really cool color, right? It's really up to you. I'm just going to use this for now. And now we're going to add a LUT, okay? Like this thing. And we're going to add it before the two-step process. And I'm going to set this to max scene because that's what I like. And we're going to add another LUT after this. You don't have to do this. This is just what I like. And we're also going to set this to max scene. So this is what we get right now. And a lot of stuff needs to be fixed. It's kind of dark. So first off, you're going to diffuse all the really bright colors. And to do that, we're just going to add the diffusion effect and set that to white mist. So what that does is it just like, it's a really subtle effect, but it like all these like really bright colors like diffuses it, right? So it looks a bit more natural. You can make it a bit more apparent by adjusting the settings, but this is what I'm gonna use. And then we're gonna add three effects here, okay? We're gonna add edge softness, and all this effect really does is that it blurs out everything outside this little ring. So then you can like adjust how this looks. So I want the focus to be on the dragon, right? So I'm just gonna blur out everything else. It looks really good. I'm gonna set the quality to 10 and the blur size to 2, okay? So that's what that does. If you look at the lamp, you can see the difference it makes, right? And then what I wanna add is some haze and flare onto this. I'm gonna be using the subtle haze preset that I made. You're probably not gonna have this, but you can just copy my settings over here. Then I'm just gonna press T again. I'm gonna use the effect called anamorphic flare. Add that on here. You can see what that does. It just takes all the bright parts and it just like adds like a flare on there, right? I'm gonna use the subtle warm preset on this. I'm not gonna spend a lot of time like making my own, like adjusting all the settings myself. You can do that if you want, but that's what I'm gonna do. If you don't think it's visible enough, you can adjust boost value and you can make it more visible. But I like how subtle it is right now, so that's what I'm gonna use. And then I'm gonna press T, go into post, and add two effects, curves and shoulder. So what shoulder does is that if you look at the RGB scopes, some of these colors can be like approaching like 1, and and anything over 1 means that it's oversaturated, and it might not look very good on all monitors. So you typically want to add this effect to make sure that it's always below 1. So like if this area is like really red, it's just gonna desaturate it a bit. It's a really subtle thing, it's just color correction. And then we're gonna use curves to make our curves. I like to use these numbers to adjust my curves. You can also like do it by yourself, but I like having a bit more control over my curves, so I'm gonna set this to about 0.3. That looks pretty good. So all that's gonna do is bring up all the dark values a bit, so it's gonna make them a bit lighter. Okay, and then we're gonna add some noise onto this. So I'm just gonna go to renoiser, add that, and I'm gonna set the grain amount to 200. And you can see that's a bit too much, so I'm gonna make the noise monochrome, meaning it's desaturated, so you can see what that does to the video. It looks really good. You can reduce the amount of noise you have. I like how this looks, so I'm just gonna keep this. Then what I'm gonna do is add shutter streak before the renoiser, so you can see what that does. It like adds like these little shutter streaks. So I'm gonna set this to about like 50, and then like see how that looks. Set this to about 0.5. I like how this looks. You can barely see it. And alright, so this is what I'm gonna go with, and now we're pretty much done. Now you can use this hue slider to adjust the color of the vandal. You're pretty much done. You can just click the check on the bottom right, and let's get out of here. Okay, let's add some deep glow on this. So I know it looks really weird right now, but what we're gonna do is set the view to glow input, and then we're gonna add some threshold on top of this. So I'm gonna set this to about like, see, 80. So only like the really bright parts are visible, and all the dark parts are not gonna glow, right? And I'm gonna set the threshold smooth to like 10%, just to like smooth the threshold, right? So that's for the input. We're gonna set this back to final render, and I'm gonna set the exposure to like 0.4, which looks pretty good. Actually, I could lower this. Let's try 0.2. And I really like how this looks now. And now we're basically done, and you can save this preset for your edits or thumbnails or whatever you want, right? So if you're interested in getting my CC presets that I have here, you can get it from a Patreon down in the description below. And leave a like if you got some value out of this tutorial, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Peace.